Cinematic is a word you hear way too often these days. So today, we're gonna find out what the flip it actually means. And while I'm attempting to give you the best possible definition of the word cinematic, we're gonna be using these new lights from Zhiyun. They're brand new, super portable, really powerful, run on a battery. That's pretty cool. And are overall just a quality light for any budget. But before we dive into these lights, let's really dive into what cinematic, or at least what I think cinematic really means. Let's just get right to it. Cinematic refers to the look of cinema. But Niles, how do I replicate something from cinema? Well, it's a bunch of things, but the most important, in my opinion, is lighting. Yes, camera movement, yes, wardrobe, absolutely storyline. But if you understand lighting, you can make a cinematic image. This light is the Molus X100 from Zhiyun. One light is outside, reinforcing daylight and providing a little bit of fake sun, so we get a little bit of depth and a little bit of layering of light. The other light is inside, and it's wrapping that light around his face to make it more flattering. We're motivating off the window here. For the inside light, we're also cutting the light, or diffusing it, to make it softer. Soft light is generally more pleasing, but hard light has its time and place. Now, depending on what kind of shows or movies you watch, cinematic may mean something different. But there are two classifications that can give context to almost any lighting setup. And that's high key and low key. Not low key like from Avengers or from Marvel. Like low key is in like, let's keep it a little low key, right? High key is beauty lighting. Think sitcoms, comedies, makeup commercials. There's a lot of light, not a ton of shadows, and the contrast ratio, ooh, buzzword, is lower, which means the amount of stops of light between your shadow and highlights is minimal. Now, low key is what most people think of when they hear cinematic. Moody, dark shadows, and a higher contrast ratio. This right here, this would be low-key lighting, because this one side of my face is super bright, while this other side is super dark. Typically, the best way to get darker shadows or a higher contrast ratio is to introduce negative fill. All it is black fabric or something of the sort that absorbs light rather than bounces it into your subject. It really is just like the opposite of a bounce. It's like a suck. It's a light suck. Don't go saying that on set, because people are gonna laugh at you, but that's pretty much what it does. So for every project, you kind of want to decide whether you are going for a low-key lighting setup or a high-key lighting setup. This is gonna dictate a lot. This is gonna dictate how you shoot it, what gear you need, and generally the mood and vibe of your project. All right, great job, man. Look at that nice layered light behind you. Do you like it? Dude, is that the new Zhiyun light?
Oh, the best.
Okay, now let's dive into these lights, because in order to achieve a lot of cinematic looks, you're gonna need to bring in extra lighting equipment. Shooting next to a window and then cutting some light with a negative fill is a great place to start, but layering in light and using lights is how to take it to the next level. So let's talk about these lights and what makes them great. First off, they're so small. They pack a massive punch for how big they are. I was plenty pleased with the output, and if you're just lighting a small room or a couple people, then you're gonna be just fine with the amount of power that you're getting from these lights. Apparently there's some new cooling technology that makes them more powerful than other lights in its size category, but I don't really know what that technology is, and honestly, the fan never kicked on even when it was at 100% brightness. It's great for filmmakers to have a light that's this small. The size also makes it super portable, so a lot of times when you're traveling for work or you're going on a production, packing lights, packing gear is super cumbersome, and renting gear gets expensive. So these lights, because they're budget friendly and tiny, you can buy several of them, easily pack them in a bag, and show up to set and be ready to light any scene. And that's massive, because I've done some productions that, are a little more bootstrapped, a little more run and gun, and it's hard to bring lights into those scenarios. But these lights, because they're so small and portable, it's a lot easier. The other side of portability is that the X100 runs off of batteries. You can literally be anywhere in the world, like you can be in the wilderness and have a couple of great lights to light a scene. That makes these lights super flexible, and I'll probably be bringing these on a majority of my productions. These lights can also pretty much be used for anything because remember there's two. So right now I have the G60 lighting me with a softbox on it. I'll actually just show you kind of my quick setup, and basically I have that acting as my key, motivating off of the window, and then I have some practicals behind me like this lamp just to add a little bit of depth. I don't really go crazy for YouTube. I just make sure that it's flattering enough of an image to where as a filmmaker I can live with it. The next thing is that these lights are bicolor, so that makes them really flexible because you can use them at tungsten, you can use them at daylight, and you have a lot of options for lighting a scene. Typically cold light and warm light, it's just that's usually what you're going to be using on these different sets. So the fact that you don't need to bring a gel to then get that tungsten look is massive, because a lot of times with lights that are even more expensive and yes, a little more powerful, they're daylight balanced. So because this is bicolor, that's a massive advantage. There's also an app that you can use to control these lights, and this wasn't something that I tested directly, but there's something called music video mode where you can literally set them to a certain BPM. So as the beats hit, the lights are changing. So they are integrating some new technology into this lighting ecosystem that I think is really cool. Not something I've actually tested yet, so I can't speak to it, but it is exciting where lighting technology is going, because that just means more tools and more options for us as filmmakers. The last thing I want to touch on are just all the accessory options that come with these lights, because yes, a light is great, but what is most important is how you modify that light. So they have some proprietary mounts that include a mini reflector, they have dome diffusion, they have a mini softbox, and they also have a Bowens mount adapter that allows you to use other softboxes and other modifiers, which is awesome. All right, everybody, hopefully you enjoyed this video, this little crash course in what I think the word cinematic is, and then kind of how to achieve a cinematic image via lighting, and then also just lights that you could use to create a cinematic image. So I hope it was helpful. I hope it was thought-provoking, and I hope it encourages you to go set up a scene. I mean, really, that scene with my buddy Keat was like, I just asked him if I could come over. I got a quick lay of the land. I moved some tables around, and I set up 2 lights and a neg fill, and within 45 minutes, we were making something that I thought looked pretty good. So you can do the same, and I encourage you to do that as well. If you're looking for inspiration, then you can always look at movies, look at stills, there's an app called FrameSet that I use where you can look up a bunch of commercial-based work and then base your work off of that and use that as inspiration. That's just overall a great place to start. So thanks again. Drop a comment below with what you think the word cinematic means to you, or if you think I'm just totally off base, and we'll see you guys in the next video. All right, y'all. Peace.